Well, hello! Once again, you have found a Texas Steampunk Connection, broadcasting to you throughout the multiverse Steamverse from our various bunkers and airships. With me, as always, is Thax, Gentleman Adventurer.
Hello, hello.
With me is Jack from Steam Chest.
Hello.
And we have with us today Master Blue Stocking from Steampunk Dollhouse Podcast. So once again, we are here to talk, probably about steampunk, most likely, because that's what this is about. Thank you for listening to the Texas Steampunk Connection.
Hello. All right, it's another Tuesday night, and we might talk about some more hats tonight.
Part of the larger discussion.
Yes,
Lots of hats.
We've
sizes.
talked about hats the last 2 episodes, and
Where is it?
I think we're running out of things to talk about hats, but not yet. Not yet. There's just a little bit more.
A little bit.
Let me shout out to Mick and Kristen in the chats, and I know Suko Sage is in here too. So hi everybody, thank you for joining us. How's the last 2 weeks been?
A lot of my life has changed, but for the better. It's just we had to do that running leap off that cliff, and now we're just hoping the parachute works. But I did a lot of preparing for this time period, so I just gotta think really hard about the whole I think I can thing, and then just pray that I pack the parachute correctly. Pull all the ripcords, because there's more than one.
But just to say, congratulations on your new job.
Thank you.
Well done. Well done.
And your new car.
And my new car at the same time. It's pretty nice. It's swank.
New
Couple
cars
years
are
out of
always
date,
nice.
but I know it's so pretty. I mean, a couple little things I'm gonna have to mess with. I'm gonna have to like reinstall the NOS system and like put the turbochargers in, and the emergency inflatable for under, so whenever my car is flying, I have the ability to jump out of a yellow raft out of the air. You never know.
Are we talking Fast and Furious Steampunk Edition?
Yeah. See that right there? I would. Isn't that what that whole like moving building, like moving city house movie could have been about if they really
Mortal
did it right?
Engines?
Yeah.
Read the book. That book
I want to. I haven't seen the
It's
movie
so
yet
good.
either because I've
liked
heard
the
so
movie.
much weird about it.
I don't
Okay.
care what anybody says. I liked the movie, but I'm also charmed by spectacle. I don't need a whole lot of plot. If there's things blowing up and there's cities on wheels and stuff, yeah, I'm fine. So which is why I like Fast and Furious
other
series. Not a lot of
cities.
plot, whole lot of action. I'm good.
Yep. Like that's the reason I'm looking forward to this Maverick movie. I'm just like, it's everything I ever wanted. It's another
Yeah.
80s.
We saw it Sunday.
Oh,
Yeah, Matt was really excited to go, and yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's just not what we were expecting.
a lot of hype going with it.
Yeah, a lot of fan service, but also some weird. I don't know. It was fine. It was just. I guess I was expecting more, considering that it took 30 years to make it. So I was, a little caught off guard. But
Yeah, every hour that they're in the jets cost $11,500. Yeah, that's what their going rate to rent the service of a jet from the Navy is right now.
yeah, Matt's right. It was underwritten. They could have done more with it. Like I said, given how much time they spent on it, they could have done more with the story. I think it was mostly just to put Tom Cruise back in a jet. Is really all it was.
Well, putting Tom Cruise back in a jet, it made more money in a box office over the first weekend than most of any of his other movies, barring the fact you're counting that it didn't launch in Russia or China, and it still made like 155 million or something stupid.
Wow,
So
really?
he's already made all his money back, and here we go.
Paid for the jets.
So paid for the jets. Considering he wasn't allowed to touch any of the controls in any of the jets, which I think is hilarious, and it looks like he does. So like, he did a lot of pulling that off somehow.
Well, apparently he's a pilot. I don't know. I'm not going to go into it. Matt's got a whole story about it, but apparently he actually is a pilot, so it makes him look. He knows.
Yep.
He actually does to a certain extent know what he's doing. I guess so.
He does all of his own stunts. He pretty much
Which
has
is
to learn every position.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
That is bonkers. Climbing the hotel in Dubai. Oh my god, that was crazy. But anyway, I mean, go see it. It's loud. It's exciting. So, you know,
A lot of airplanes. That's
Yes.
what a lot of us are in it for. So
yes.
fast forward past the volleyball and the,
'Cause
and the
there is a
romantic
volleyball
love
scene.
interest and the weird karaoke scene. Let's get back to the Jets. Come on.
How was your weekend, Thax?
Pretty slow, pretty unremarkable. Just hanging out of the house mostly, and walking the dogs and taking them to the dog park, and just pretty chill. Nothing outrageous to report. On Monday, I did go to a new sort of bar lounge in East Austin that I thought was pretty cool. Nothing steampunk, but I had a good time. Had a good time not doing much of anything.
What was the place?
You
Where'd you
know,
go?
I'm sorry?
Where did you go?
The bar was called what was it called? Slightly Tropical.
ooh,
Interesting.
No, kinda tropical.
kind of tropical.
Which I don't know. I did not find it particularly tropical at all, except for the heat and humidity. Getting out there at 4 p.m. for happy hour, but it was under a big tree, and they had fans running, and they did everything they could to keep things reasonably cool, and it was cool. It was good. I guess there's a swimming pool next door. It's not a neighborhood that I know of, so there were people in swimsuits. Is that kind of tropical?
I mean, it could be, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, let's
I
run
don't
the
know.
French side of the island.
What y'all drinking?
Well, I mean, it's not like mine's haven't been seen already, but I had one of these running around in the refrigerator, so I'm like, I'm gonna pull this back out because it's been one of those weekends.
That's a high gravity beer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I need one, and you're just like sip on it all day. Okay, maybe not all day, maybe 3 for an entire day if you're trying to go from like morning to dawn to dusk or something. But
So it's like a beverage and a meal all at once.
yeah, it's very bready, exceedingly
Traveling
bready.
food.
Like, oh yeah, they feed this to mutters, I hear, on other planets.
Irish
Place is called
traveling food.
Jamestown. I want to go to the little town where I'm, a little back-assward town where I'm a hero.
Aw. What are you drinking, Thax?
Well, a few episodes ago, you guys both had ciders, and I was kind of jealous. So I got some Austin East ciders.
Nice. Well, you did have some.
He had some cider. It's all over his keyboard now.
It's a very good, serviceable dry cider from East Austin, and that's what I'm having tonight.
It's serviceable, like easy to maintain, like the oil's easy to change.
I mean, it's
The hubcaps
pleasantly
come
It gets the
drinkable.
job done.
It gets the job.
Well, I went back to my Moscato, so I needed something light and a little fizzy because it is just nasty up here right now.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Yeah, I'm very happy my car has air conditioning now, and the office I work in, they like it at like 68. So I'm thinking about like buying half a cow and hanging it up in my office. So just take some carvings before I go home. It's really nice.
Well, congratulations on all the new stuff that you got going on. It's very exciting.
Thank you. I didn't even get to mow my lawn last week, so I have to do it this
Oh.
week sometime.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to use like a machete and a flamethrower and knock back some of the man-eating plants. Go tame that rose bush again before it takes over the neighbor's yard and their
Well,
family.
I mean, it's a more sustainable option to, just kind of let things go a little wild. So,
Let it eat
If
the
I'm in
meat.
an HOA, they're against
oh,
sustainable.
ew.
They're like, we should be able to use your house as the third tee off, freaking 18 holes.
HOAs are horrible.
Your tree is dying. No, it's not. It's turning yellow because those leaves are supposed to fall off now. And it starts new leaves. It's an oak tree. They do that. You just hire people who don't know what they're doing in people's lawns.
Well,
Anywho, we're here to talk about hats, right?
well, sorta.
Sorta.
I don't know how to reach this subject because it's not fun, and we like to have fun here.
I actually got a couple hats that we can go over to begin with if we want to start lighthearted about unacceptable hats in costumes due to their ramifications of where they come from.
And their associations, yeah, and what they indicate to people that see them. So.
Because the Victorian era was full of colonialism, racism,
Cultural appropriation,
imperialism, cultural appropriation, Orientalism,
class warfare. Nobody
Yeah.
had a good time in actual. Well, very few people. None of us.
I mean, upper middle class white men had a great time.
Going
They were
back in time
exploring
for
all
us
over the place.
is like awesome. Anyone else that go back in time, they're gonna have a bad time. But for us, we go back in time, like, oh, we have a table for you over here, sir. But the future, we can't go to the future. That's the place we're not allowed to go.
Yeah, well, and one thing that I think it's important to remember as we start talking about this, because I got a lot of crap when I started my show because people told me I was sucking the fun out of steampunk by making it political. The thing is, yes, steampunk is alternate histories a lot of the time and counterfactuals, but that doesn't erase what actually happened. And the industrial era happened in a very, very specific way. And you can't just say, poof, all of it's gone. Everybody was treated well in this world. And
There was no fascism at the turn of the century when this was happening.
Yeah, industrialism was built on the backs of a lot of people. It was, and it's not. I mean, steampunk stories are great fun. I love them. It's why I got started on all of this. But it's okay to accept the political nature of it. Everything is inherently political. It just is. So there's things that should be discussed.
I get people's position that they got into steampunk because they wanted to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a fun thing that they wanted to do, and it's kind of awkward that we're playing with Victorian aesthetics and some historical Victorian roots where nobody had fun. And so how do we do that? So that's what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah. And
I think it's. Sorry, go on.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I think it's one of those things that's hard to figure out where the fine line is because it's like, well, I want to dress up in, let's say petrol punk. And, World War I, World War II is very prevalent. And, I throw on some, let's say I'm just going to go for fighter aces here. And I start putting on some leathers. And I mean, the German symbol for their planes is, something that everyone is instantly recognizable. But I don't know. It's kind of one of those like, where's the trade-off to where it no longer becomes acceptable to use such things? I mean, obviously, direct resemblances of any major symbolism, even if you get rid of it, change it with something else, it's still there to a degree because of the design.
I think you're safer in World War I flying aces because, well, honestly, people just don't remember or haven't studied World War I enough to be, they're just ignorant of it.
Yeah. Everyone wore the same leather hats with goggles, and they wear leather jackets and whatnot. That's what you wore because you were in an open cockpit, and planes were very new. And I mean, and the political ramifications of World War I were basically undoing all of the medieval age up to this point, based all their different treaties and whatnot. It just undid hundreds of years worth of politics. And so it's kind of the great unraveling. And I don't know. I'm not a historian. I apologize for not coming up with the right words. People are very laughing at me, but
Oh, no. I think from all of the reading that I've done and everything that I've, the one comment, the one thread is that we want steampunk to be for everyone, right?
Mhm.
We want it to be available and open for all people, for everyone to join and enjoy it and play. But we have to keep in mind that if someone of, Indian, South Asian descent, or Pakistan, India, they want to play and they see someone just, a white dude just blithely wandering through with a pith helmet, that is a very direct, whether they realize it or not, and most people don't. They don't think about the colonial connotations of the pith helmet unless you're on the other side of that. And then you do think about the connotations. So that is where I think a lot of the confusion comes in, is yeah.
I'm offended.
You have to think about the connotations. When you're wearing something, it's just, yes, we want to have fun. I do too. I, put on my bustle and my corset, and, and I go to events, but you got to consider the side that you're on, the side that you're viewing it from, and how other people may be viewing it as well. I don't want to say sides, that turns it into a battle. It's not. You just have to consider how you view it versus how other people may be viewing it. Take other people's life experiences into account, and just keep that in mind. No one is screaming at you to stop doing this. They're just saying, be aware, of the stories and the histories behind it, because it's saying that it's steampunk doesn't wipe that out. Yeah. The history is still there.
And it's never, I don't think, our intention by putting on a pith helmet to enrage anyone. We're just here to have fun and play with costumes. That's
where we live.
And where we live in Texas, it's freaking hot, and the pith helmet is really good for catching the breeze and blowing it over your scalp. It's from an engineering point of view, it's a great hat for the heat, which is why the imperialists wore it when they went over to India, where it was hot, and
their skin wasn't used to that. Yeah,
shat all over the local population. Now everyone's mad at them.
Well, I mean,
they deserve, but crap.
Well, no, and this is why I never tried to venture into this subject on this show, and was because
this is so fun.
Because I just want, I don't want to poop on everybody's fun. Like I said, I like it too. It's why when I dove into it, however long ago it was, and it was just, I don't know, maybe it was just because I started reading more and started focusing on because history was one of my focuses in school, that I learned a lot more than I thought I would, and a lot of it was really sad and depressing and horrible, but it made me think about things more. And like I said, I love steampunk. I'm here. I love it. But I think it's okay to take a critical look at things and to understand, the stories behind it. And there's a lot of amazing stories out there that, don't get told, because also the Victorian era wasn't the be all end all. There was a lot of places that were industrializing. And so that's, look at different areas.
Like United States
of the West. Yeah.
We've got our own stories of
exactly
imperialism and murder. And wow.
I find it interesting how I've had to explain that cowboys are considered to be part of steampunk when I go to certain conventions. They're like, "You're not steampunk." I'm like, what part of the Wild Wild West did you miss? I mean, the flagship. Sadly, the flagship movie for a whole movement, and you're like, that ain't steampunk. Like,
a lot of people do consider the Victorian part to be
all of it.
Yes, they do. Like so many books that I've read, like it's Victorian industrialism. No, it's not. There's so much more to it than that. Just broaden your minds a little bit. That's all.
There's another. There's got to be at least one other Facebook group called Intercultural Steampunk, but they pull a lot from India and the Far East and other cultures that are taking cues from their own history of the period that isn't Elizabeth, or that isn't under Queen Victoria specifically, but incorporating those things into their shtick, and it's really, really cool. And it's nice that they don't have to worry about how they were oppressors like some of us.
Well, and I can't find the quote now. I can't remember, but Jamie Go, who was really big in steam, she did her master's thesis and her dissertation on colonialism and steampunk. And she wrote an article. I'll have to find it later and share it to the Facebook page. But she basically, the way she defined it was industrialization. And, I'll find the quote, but it takes it out of the Victorian era and any, society or culture that is built on industrialization and steam power, which means that it could be anywhere. It could be Chinese. It could be. There's a series called what is it? The Gunpowder Chronicles by Jeannie Lin, the Clockwork Samurai, and I can't remember the other one. My brain is lost right now. But those are set in China and Japan, and they are fighting against the East India Company and the Opium Wars. And it is amazing. There is a female bandit who lives in the woods, and she has clockwork legs because her bound feet, she couldn't walk because when she was a child, her feet were bound. And so someone makes her clockwork prostheses for her legs so she can, go running through the forest. It's so cool. So there's so many options out there for steampunk. There's so many places that you can go and things that you can look at, and they don't even have to be on this world. They can be completely built worlds that are, just filled with everything fantastical. It's, sorry.
Here we are talking about, let's not use, the World War II German helmet or something in our costume.
Sorry, I didn't mean to run off on a tangent.
No,
No. I always enjoy your tangents. I don't even think
ever said that to me before.
If you listen to our show last episode, it was all tangents. But
it was
the episode of Great Tangent.
My feeling about going into purely fantasy worlds is they're usually, unless it's a really good writer, they're not nearly as diverse and colorful and interesting as ones that I find are based off real world historical roots, because it's real history is ultimately so much more interesting and multifaceted.
It's grounded in
It's
something that
it's really hard to recreate that unless you're like J.R.R. Tolkien or something.
Well, he does take 18 pages to describe a tree. So
yeah, lots
really
of exposition.
cool tree.
it's a really cool tree.
Have you read the China Mieville series, the Perdido Street Station, and Scar? They're long.
It's on my bookshelf, but I haven't picked it up.
That's one of my favorite. I mean, it's super long, but it's a built world, and oh my God, there's people that have been for punishment. People get reformed into these just horrific sites. Yeah, I won't. Some of them are so horrible that I won't. Yeah, there's body horror involved, so you got to be careful with those. But
kind of has that Dune aspect to it with the thing in the background. Gotcha.
I mean, honestly, I read like the first few pages of Dune and then wandered off and read something else.
The movie, they have
I didn't see the movie either. I might watch it, but I haven't got around to that yet. One thing I can say though, I mean, like different steampunk. One of the things we can look at, or that is definitely worth a read, is Justina Ireland's Dread Nation and the Deathless
That's what you were
Divide.
reading just a few months ago, right?
I had the last episode that I posted on my show was about Dread Nation, and then the Deathless Divide as the second book came out. Excellent black steampunk in an alternate America where the Civil War ended because zombies rose up on the fields of Gettysburg, effectively ended the war. All the slaves were freed, but young black girls were conscripted into schools and trained to fight how to fight zombies, so they could protect rich white families.
Right,
And
but see, even then, that has it's an alternative history.
Yeah.
It's got its roots in history, and then it sort of diverges from there.
it's
but you
very
still
purely American.
You still have all those unpleasant, awkward
Conversations.
which I'm sure are well developed in that book series, and make for a better book, but may not be the best place to play in as groups. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Yeah, but also, I mean, it does, but it also shows it because, like I said, it helps to demonstrate that steampunk can be for everybody. There's a group called Airship Ashanti, and it's largely black steampunk players here in America. I follow them on Instagram, and they're a really interesting bunch. They do a lot of fundraisers. They go around to a lot of conventions. So it helps to show that everyone can be represented in it. I mean, it's
awesome.
It's on the it's on it's not the running through foggy Victorian London chasing the boogeyman, but it's good and it's super exciting. It's really exciting. It's just a different look at the way that we can do it. So
like I tend to take the west, the out west style gunslinger look myself, except today I get the top hat just trying it out.
They had top hats in the Wild West.
They did, and I I could stick a whole bird up inside this thing.
I would pay money to see that.
Since you said that, no, I'm joking. There's not actually a bird up here.
If you show up at Steampunk November with a bird under your hat, that will make my entire year.
I'm sorry, it's not going to happen unless it's by a complete accident or coincidence. I don't have any birds right now.
Well, you have till November.
Jack.
You've got months.
I'm not getting a bird.
Steampunk November, and you can give us the bird.
There you go. Just have a big foam finger under my. Just pull it up like this, which is a big.
See, there you go. You construct a little clockwork mechanism to make it spring up out of the top of your hat when you take it off.
So last episode, I promised to tell a awkward story about hats and kind of colonialism and my poor choices. So I want to tell you that story now. Since we were talking about pith helmets, another option that I found that I didn't think was going to be that big a problem at the time, but I've got this sort of French Foreign Legion hat that I thought was really cool. I hadn't seen one of these before, and it kind of looks like a baseball cap, but it's got a squared off crown and this sort of drape behind. I'm saying this for the podcasters who won't be able to see this later. And it covers up the back of the neck, and it's a tan, and it goes very well with the same costume as the pith helmet. And was probably worn over in the over in India and the Middle East.
The opening sequence of The Mummy when they do the fight,
right?
Has the French Foreign Legion wearing those.
French Foreign Legion.
Yeah,
which isn't really. It's too late to be period unless you were going diesel punk. But I didn't care.
Well, I mean, if you do long 19th century, then that lasted until the 19 teens. So count.
My area of the world.
So I went on the steampunk cruise out of Galveston, and we went down to the Caribbean. And one day, I think we were in Honduras. I wore this hat and the costume because it's hot, and we were all dressed, sort of foolishly because we're steampunks, freaking the straits. But people particularly kind of focused on me, like, who is that guy? Why is he wearing that? And somebody asked one of the other people if I was a cop. And that's a bizarre question. But apparently that is a more appropriate police uniform, even now, for police in Honduras, I guess.
No.
So,
Oops.
that was weird. And just because, I didn't do any research and didn't even think about it until I was in it. And then, and so that was just odd.
Yeah, and I mean, not everybody's going to think to do. I mean, like I said, I didn't either. But you don't always think to do research on. You find cool things that things that look cool together, and you put them on, and you don't think about it until someone maybe brings it up to you or thinks that you're a cop on the boat.
In another 20 years, someone's going to wear a red baseball cap, and people are like, "Dude, not cool."
Yeah,
it's just one of those things that. It's
my head snaps around now when I see someone in the room. Make sure they're zipping across.
Maybe it's weird. We'll have all forgotten about that silly business, and we'll have moved on with things. Maybe
better
masks.
Hopefully,
there we go. We're back to that one. 100 years from now, we'll be back into masks again.
Yeah, I mean, we don't learn so well sometimes. Yeah,
it seems like the human psyche is about 100 years long. We remember like maybe 80 years out, and then we forget, and then we tend to repeat things over again.
Yeah, we just, well, that I could go into something about the quality of our textbooks in schools, but that's a different story and another subject entirely. But one of the things, I mean, when I was reading,
month.
Yeah, no. When I was reading about, because I looked up a couple of different articles on like the pith helmets, and that it is still, they are still used by law enforcement and military in India and those parts of the world, just because they like you said, they are protective, they do help.
They're effective.
But just things to consider.
So I assume that the local folks in India are not offended by their local police department.
That's
so it's not
I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on the
on some white guy. I mean, let's be straight right here, right?
Situational.
So, another one of those things, because we live where we live. I actually have me I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. Shimga. The head Shmiga. Okay, so I have essentially the piece of cloth that the Israelis and everyone in the Middle East ever wears, and I have it in like 3 different colors. If you've seen me in costume, I usually have the gold one around my waist or hanging off of me somewhere, because dadgummit, that's a fantastic piece of cloth, and it is wonderful. If you're cold, you wrap it around your shoulders, and it's like 2 layers. Or if you literally are hot and you put it on top of your head, it breathes so well, and it absorbs your sweat, and you're out of the sun. When I lived out in the middle of nowhere, I used to wear it when mowing my lawn, because I could put it in front of my face and over my head and literally look like an extra on any movie while mowing my lawn. But it was fantastic. And you know what? I can't wear that hardly anywhere in public, and I can't wear it mowing my lawn now. And the only place I can really do it, as long as I'm wearing my costume pieces. And most of them are not so. I didn't go with the classic like white and blue one with all the little Israeli marks on it or anything like that, but it does have like houndstooth and whatnot. So it doesn't look like I'm trying to literally be a Middle Eastern, regime holder of any type, because those are frankly really cheap and really easy to get a hold of. But they're, you see like Gaddafi wearing them all the time.
You see them in the SCA. You see them in the SCA a lot. Yeah.
Really?
Yes, I knew a bunch of men who wore those. Even people that had like Celtic and Welsh and personality.
Fantastically made. I hate the fact that it's not culturally appropriate for me to wear it in public.
A lot of fighters,
or I could be shot in like Walmart for wearing it over here.
Yeah. My thought was the people you're offending are East Texas white people.
Well, I was going to say that's on the different side of it, though. As he's wearing that, then there are people here who may not take kindly to what they think is,
Sometimes it's okay to piss people off.
I mean, just don't get shot over it.
I was going to say, I mean, at this point, just be careful.
It's like if I go around wearing that, I'm going to get called all sorts of really, really bad names that should not exist in our current environment, but do. And because it's been done, and I'm just like, maybe I shouldn't wear this in Midland, Texas, or anywhere really.
Well,
But
Texas is
and it's just
real.
people's weird preconceived notions. And my neighbor would watch me mowing it, and he's like, "Why are you wearing that?" And he's like, he owns a gun store, and
Ooh.
yeah. And so I walk over to him. I'm like, "Put this on your head," because he wasn't wearing anything, and he puts it on, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is fantastic."
Yeah.
And ever since then, I'm like, sombreros are perfect for what they do. They give you tree amounts of shade, and cowboy hats are just minimalistic when it comes to those things. Like, I understand those dudes and those old westerns that have a hat that goes 18 feet in every direction that like encompasses their horse for shade. And
I have
I'm
one of those.
that's a smart
Just
man.
surrounds the entire horse.
It's like you and five other dudes can stand under that hat.
When I was in Mexico, I bought a straw hat. It was like a cowboy hat, but the brim was almost probably 2 feet across.
Yes,
And
it's an umbrella.
I bought it there at the touristy area, and then for the rest of the day, all the locals looked and laughed at me.
And all you do is point back and laugh back.
I'm there to have a good time. I'm never going to see you guys again.
Just get the one with like the millions of tassels all the way around.
Oh, wow. There's that line where we're looking to not cross. I don't know.
Thax draws the line at tassels.
Yet another thing I would honestly love to see if you showed up with the tassels.
If you join our
all the way
Patreon, you get to
around.
watch our Steampunk After Dark, which we go into more about this whole tassel thing with Thax.
Thax and tassels. I need to get that jazz riff, the sexy After Dark jazz riff. Just start hitting that every time.
Let's do it. I'll learn the guitar riff, and you just give me the voice, and we'll put it together, and we'll have it like as an additive that Thax can just like hit a button and like throw in here.
Oh boy,
it's getting hot in here.
I'll say.
See,
Oh,
you got
there we go.
your sweat liquor right there.
Bye, Sonny. Okay. Do we have other hats to talk about? I do.
Yes. Oh, you go first.
No, you go first.
I'm going to find some that were not exactly straight out in the open when it came to me. I looked up inappropriate hats to wear. And most of the time it was ball caps with some really raunchy things said on it. Like, you know what? Most of these I don't hate. It's just I would never wear them around my mother. Or people I liked. But Davy Crockett's coonskin hat came up.
Yeah, I'm
which
not
is
surprised.
very cultural appropriating, but it was culturally appropriated during the time period of when it got popular. So I'm not really totally sure how to feel about that one. But like, it was obviously Native American, and reading about it a bit here, I had to page for it.
Well, it blew up in the 50s, didn't it, when the TV show came out?
Yeah,
Was it the
and I guess
50s?
that would be the time period for it to be weird too. But like, even as a kid, I owned a coonskin hat, and these days I'll admit that I'm more annoyed for the fact that we're killing raccoons over it because I like them more than I like the hat. And
You don't know enough raccoons.
I was going to say,
I've got a lot of raccoons. As long as they're not in my trash or in my roof, I'm
like I
okay.
said, according to our animal control guy, they are spicy.
Oh yeah, no, they are
Not
they are
nice.
Pisces. They are Pisces animals.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I also
neat.
rehabilitated 2 of them, and they're wicked smart. They're like the
Mm.
Ferengi on our planet. They're literally, they'll trade you anything. They know what you like. They will go and they'll grab it. They'll bring it to you for trade for food.
Crows will
And
do the same thing.
yeah, crows,
Yeah.
crows, and raccoons are like, if we have to leave this planet and come back, they're the ones that are taking over, and we're gonna have to do business with them next. But so
really
the coonskin
surprised.
hat.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just really surprised when you said that was a Native American hat first. I'd never seen
Mm-hmm.
I'd never seen that worn except by like
It's because Davy Crockett.
Davy
made it
Davy
popular.
Crockett. Yeah. Or the
Davy
fur
Crockett,
trappers. Yeah.
fur trappers, and then it became really popular among colonials.
And it's funny because the actual Daniel Boone never actually wore a coonskin hat.
I
That
thought it was
was-
Davy Crockett.
Well, yeah, Davy Crockett, but Daniel
Crockett.
Boone did not actually wear coonskin hats, which he disliked. Instead, he wore felt hats. But the explorer Meriwether Lewis wore a coonskin hat during the Lewis and Clark expedition.
Nice.
So,
Sorry, y'all.
I don't know. It's funny because Davy Crockett did wear one, but like Daniel Boone was portrayed wearing them in movies, and he did not like them, and because they were itchy, which makes sense. Raccoon fur is not fur; it's actual hair, so it acts a little different. There's like 18 layers to that stuff.
Well,
being
and
one
my
who's
husband-
brushed a raccoon before.
My husband just announced in the chat that he had both a coonskin cap and a headdress,
Indian chief's
Native
headdress.
American headdress. So
I don't even
Yeah.
think we need to talk about that. I mean, that's so blatantly not cool.
80s though.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
The 80s and early 90s, like even in my I remember it one
Lot
day
of bad
very
choices.
clearly in kindergarten where we made it was we were learning about Indians.
Thanksgiving.
So
Yeah.
and so we made the headbands and we made the feathers and if you did well and you had like major things throughout the week, you got more feathers. So it was, kind of like how you actually earned it. You earn your headdress. And so like I get it now, but I look back going, I mean, I get it. I'm not totally sure how else to I'm not a teacher, so I don't have to
see what
worry
you're
about
doing,
it.
but stop that.
Yeah,
Stop.
like I don't mind like teaching. I would love to teach more about Native Americans because one of my best friends, uncles, and like in my town, like was related directly to the Comanches. And so when we did the history of old Coke County in Texas, like we had him dress up in Native American garb and give the story of what happened to the Native Americans in the area. And so, but he was the only one that could pull that off. At least everyone felt that way. And so when he stopped doing it, we didn't have that part anymore. No one took over for it, just because it felt wrong. And
Well,
so-
I mean, word still hasn't really gotten out well enough because you still have women in their 20s and 30s at Coachella wearing, white girls wearing Native American headdress. Oh, just the appropriation is just, yeah.
So
Yeah.
here's the question I have: when does appropriation become bad? Because all right, let's just take like since we were talking about
That's opening
Maverick
a can of
and
worms,
Top
man.
Gun in
That's what we're here for
early
tonight.
part of this, we have The Last Samurai, and so
that-
when does the
That's white savior mythology.
well, okay, so there's the white savior syndrome for sure, because obviously he should have died in all that mess too, because he's not
They didn't.
Superman.
Yeah.
But barring that, if you go and you live in someone's culture and you've basically become part of that culture, when does it? Or actually, they mentioned this as well in the TV show Cobra Kai, because the main character, who very deep into Okinawan lore culture and was trained by Mr. Miyagi, and it's really part of him, and he starts selling bonsai trees at his Ford dealership essentially, and his home is done up in very Asian manner. He made a commercial for his dojo, and it had Okinawan music, and someone called him out for cultural appropriation. And I'm just like, so
Well,
how does that
okay.
work? 'Cause
Let
I'm
me say
confused.
this. As a 46-year-old white woman who was born and raised in Texas, I don't feel that it's my place to say what is or is. I will go by the cues that I am given by the cultures that are being appropriated. And it's not my place to say no, that's fine. That should. I mean, I'm well. Speaking as someone who has a Chinese character tattooed on the back of my neck, which I got in '96 when everybody was doing it. We didn't, it wasn't a thing back then, and now I'm like, I really want to get this thing covered up. I hate it. It sucks, but it's. I guess it matters when. I would think the difference is if you have been told, if this has been brought to your attention, and you have been told by a person from that particular culture that, or multiple people or whoever from that culture that this is offensive, they don't like this. This is, because it also has to do with not always understanding the stories and the purposes behind the things that you're appropriating. There could be larger histories there, like Native American ornamentation.
Yeah,
we
the headdresses,
don't.
They all
Yes,
mean something. It's not just
the
decorative.
the breastplate, everything. The bone breastplates, all of it. We don't have. That's not our culture. We don't have the spiritual or the religious or the cultural.
Like dressing up like a cardinal for the church and wandering around. It would be kind of weird. I get that, and I think that's the part people don't realize. Huh?
You haven't done that?
No. No, I mean, I have, but I'm not. That's a different time, and I pulled it off.
I'll be willing to throw out a rule of thumb. Okay, maybe
here we
find a
go.
way of saying that.
Dax's rule of thumb.
But if your culture of your cultural forebears were colonizers or colonizers of another culture, probably shouldn't try to take cues from that culture.
Yeah, cultural drift happens, but colonization, different thing.
Yeah.
Here's actually another way of putting it.
For people who are really into Japanese culture, the Japanese seem to have the opinion that they were not colonized by white people, although we tried, 16th century, we tried to trade them into the dirt.
Tried real hard.
But generally, Japanese people are thrilled to have other people learn more about their culture and want to take parts from it and play with it. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't necessarily go for anything you find that's Japanese. They have their own religions and things that are sacred to them that you need to learn what are and not mess with those. But I think it's a much more nuanced situation with people who are into Japanese culture or want to learn more about Chinese culture than the white guy who wants to wear a Native American headdress. I mean, that's
having an understanding of these things is important. Is very important. Why these things matter. Why, and it's not just the fact that it looks cool. I mean, and a lot of these things do, but there's so much more behind it. There's so much history, and especially when you look at colonized populations, indigenous populations that have been colonized, a lot of, much of what they have may have been a response to colonization. And so that adds even more depth and more layers to it that need to be considered. It's not hard.
That's why we're here. To try to learn a little bit more so we can be more sensitive to situations that take a certain amount of nuance, that take a certain amount of knowledge of what's going on and how you're being perceived. Let's talk about
Before
another.
You stick it on your uniform. Maybe you go read about it a little bit.
another hat that might be considered.
The fez.
the fez.
Fez is here. Run.
Which is I just put on the fez for the podcasters. And the one I am wearing is a sort of velvet colored, very tall, rounded, squared.
It looks like you're wearing a cake with a tassel.
Yeah, with a tassel on it. Um, which I found particularly funny about these is this has nothing to do with a Turkish fez or nobody in the Middle East or Turkey wore these. These were created by Hollywood in the 40s to I mean, one might argue that they were sort of making caricatures of Turkish and medieval people for those programs, or to communicate this caricature
Exotic, yeah.
of
Exotic
two people,
flair.
which
Yeah.
now I think is sort of hilarious, and it's kind of why I like the hat. But I also need to be aware that this is the history, and maybe an actual Turkish person would think it's not that cool. It's not funny.
Yeah.
See, I always associate that with Shriners, but I don't know if that's just
Sure, yeah.
Yep.
Secret societies, Shriners. I also saw
Only a secret society could come up with a hat like that.
I saw a what I would consider closer to an actual Turkish fez, which is it's still squared off, but it's much shorter, a much shorter sort of soft hat that sits on your head. I don't think it has a tassel.
like Benny from the Mummy, from the first Mummy.
Yeah.
Benny, that's what he
With a new
was.
friend, didn't you, Benny?
Yeah, that's what he was wearing.
Unfortunately, that character was still a caricature.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I
He was trying to culturally appropriate a lot of things on his neck.
Victorian men's smoking hat, which looks a lot more like a fez. Still has a tassel, but it's shorter and very rich fabrics and some embroidery. I'm still not sure if that would be a good choice in all such circumstances, unless you were joining a secret society or something.
You're gonna put on your fez and ride around in a tiny car.
What do you think of the historical fez or the Hollywood goofy fez? As far as is that okay to wear, and where is it okay to wear that?
I don't know. It feels like that falls into a weird area where it's hard to, because it
bring it
feels
up.
like a mock. Yeah, it feels like a mockery, but like I said, I didn't know that about Hollywood, the Hollywood inventing that version of it. Like I said, I just remember it from Shriners commercials when I was a kid. That's the only thing I remember it from, is the Shriners and their tiny cars and their fez with the tassel. I didn't
Tiny
know
cars
it was
with hats. Now, I mean, with that said, we've kind of watched a weird cultural appropriation in our time of the Middle East again, because we've had so many more. Well, our military's been over there for 30 years or 40 years now, like hookahs and hookah bars and that style, and those kind of things have come across. And I've heard people liken it to kind of, spoils of war, or, well, not really spoils of war, since we're not like taking it and bringing it home exactly. But, foreign militaries going overseas and bringing back culture of other places they've been to. And like Britain is very much built on that. And
yeah.
like you could even see it in their architecture. Like 3 floors of this building was during one time period, and then obviously, you could definitely tell this time period of this building is like strata and rock was. They were definitely in India at that time, because you can see the change in the building, and then above it, it goes into differences. But that is one thing that we tend to do as societies, is bring back culture from other places we've been, whether we were there peacefully or not.
No, Rome did it too. I mean,
Rome very much did it.
I think what we're struggling with is the fact that cultural appropriation is a natural human process. That this is how we, exchange cultural ideas, and sometimes it's awkward and painful, like where we're at now, but it's also extremely common across the span of history.
We're all raccoons. We like to grab things. Ooh, this is cool.
Yeah, but but like we said, there's a difference between cultures that have just, like Italy and Spain, or places in Europe where they interacted with each other and ideas drift across, versus coming in and forcefully sending ideas back, soldiers stationed in India or Egypt or wherever, and sending those ideas back to Britain, which becomes a fascination with Orientalism, or the mummy fascination that everyone had in, the 19th century, when mummies were just being carted off to England for unwrapping parties. So there is a, which is just so horrifying, but there is a difference between cultural interchanges and exchanges and the forceful exchange of cultural ideas. And I think that's also something to keep in mind, how the exchanges have happened and why, where we got the things that we have and how were they extracted. So it's just, little things to keep in mind. That's all. We're not always going to get it right, but just know a little something about the things that you choose to wear or, adorn your body. Don't get ill-advised tattoos when you're 19.
That could be said about anything, though. Like, don't do anything when you're 19. Just wait till you're 21. Let's just wait a year or two. Come on, and think about it for a minute. Maybe ask some more friends.
Of all the things you could have done, getting a Chinese character art tattoo, that doesn't seem all that bad.
Just sign of the times.
Depending on,
like I said, it was 96. Everybody was getting them. It was one of the most popular. I knew so many girls that had them on the back of their neck, or like the thing I have on my lower back. There's a lot of bad tattoo choices in the mid to late 90s.
Even what's her name?
I think what you said. We're often not going to get it right, and I think it's okay to give yourself some forgiveness.
if you're trying,
to make mistakes, and then like I did in the Caribbean, learn from my mistakes and maybe not wear that police uniform over there again. That's it is what it is.
Be mindful of your choices.
With that said, my grandfather went to Russia, and he was wearing, at the time, he had I wasn't even an NRA hat. I can't remember what it was. It was just oil field guy. It was an oil company, and they had on the ball cap, it had those golden like leaflets like you would see on military hats. It's just a ball cap with like an oil rig on it with these like florets coming down like this on the ball cap bit. And apparently he got some special treatment when he was over in Russia. And finally, on the end, the guy, their I can't come up with his name. Their guide. There we go. Their guide finally asked the question. It's like, "Are you in the military?" Grandfather's like, "No." But like this entire time, like all these like major Russian officials and everything thinks he's like some sort of general. And yeah, so they had like vodka shipped to his house and stuff like that. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oops.
They didn't ask. He didn't say. It's just like, this is cool. And he had another one of those kind of mistaken identity things going on where, things taken look cool and someone puts it on their hat because they wanted to be slightly different and gets completely taken out of proportion.
Yep. Just because it looks cool doesn't always mean that you should do it.
But see, I don't know how.
Vodka, and wiretaps.
How would he know? That's why I say you should give yourself some slack. You never know what kind of oopsie you're going to make in traveling.
Yep.
Hopefully not too terrible. A friend of mine who travels extensively, one of the things I like to quote of him is he says, you can get out of almost any trouble with $100 US.
That's true.
So, just be ready.
You're like, oops, my bad.
Well, and the other thing to consider is if someone brings up something about your outfit or your steampunk outfit that you've put a lot of time and effort into, and they bring something up to you about it, don't freak out. Don't lose your mind.
What can we do to make this better? And hand them $100.
No.
No, but maybe.
We don't encourage bribery.
It's not bribery. It's concealment money.
No. Just, listen to what they have to say. Don't,
Yeah.
Constructive criticism is, it's not a bad thing. So.
I think this has been a good conversation. I think.
At least that's what the two white guys and the white girl say. I mean, we would love to have
the three
more
middle-aged white
opinions
people
on this.
We're working with what we got here. I
can't just no.
But I
Do
like to
something
think
different.
we've opened up the conversation. We've broken the seal. Got past the awkwardness, maybe a little.
All right, everybody, come to our comments and yell at us and tell us how bad and horrible we are, and we'll have a redo video where we meet all your comments.
Yeah. We'll all smoke a hookah about it and decide how we're going to move forward.
Just like I said, we're not, everybody has to make their own choice, and you like what you like. Just like I said, be mindful of the things that you choose, and there's nothing wrong with looking into, like I said, in the SCA, you deeply, deeply study the things that you're going to be wearing when you develop a persona. Why is steampunk any different? Just because it's alternate history. Well, yeah, some do. Some definitely don't. Some just throw on a tunic and call it a day. But,
I want to hit people with a sword.
Basically,
where's my sword?
Just, do some research. It's not going to hurt you.
Our research will come and do you.
And you'll be out $100.
Oh my god!
$100. Yep. All right. Well, let me wind this up. I want to, before we end tonight, of course, I want to thank our patrons on Patreon, particularly because the bill came this month, and they really helped us out. So thank you to the Dowager Duchess Claire Bear, Jenny and Ryan Shaver, Kitty Vincent, who just finished her season of Ren Fairs, and she is back to listening to our show. Thank you. And Rita and Lawrence Allen, who are always in the audience. Thank you guys. If you're not listening to us now, you can find us on Facebook at Texas Steampunk Connection. You can email us at texassteampunkconnection@gmail.com. Our podcast is texassteampunkconnection.podbean.com. And we're on Twitter at TXSteamConnect1. And we're on YouTube and Rumble sometimes through Steam Chest.
I'm working on it.
Subscription box. Sporadically. And our music is from zapsplat.com. Zap and Splat. Thank you also to Matt Davis, who's been talking to us about in the comments about what
he knows. Vocal host.
He's giggling in the other room.
Hookahs and I want to read this. He writes, hookah had become very popular in some cities in Texas since the Middle Eastern oil boom in the 50s and 60s, when the businessmen set up shop in Houston. Now, the hookah bars I've seen have been run by folks from the Middle East. There's a Lebanese restaurant in South Austin that also has hookahs to rent. So I don't feel like that's been appropriated. They brought it with them.
Midland's funny because they brought it from over here because we have these big oil conventions since the 50s and 60s. Mm-hmm. And so for about 3 to 4 months out of the year, most of our hotels are rented out during these major conventions like this. And they're long conventions because they're going to all these different businesses that are doing oil, and basically all this oil research we've been coming up with, we're sharing with them. And because we drill on average deeper holes by 2 to 3 times deeper than they drill. And so we're trying to figure out how to change information around. And one of the best Middle Eastern restaurants ever is in Midland. I find it kind of funny. It's a great place to eat.
I'm still laughing about how deep our holes are.
I know. I'm trying not to laugh, but then Zach starts giggling.
Okay,
because we are 12 years old.
Yes, we are 12. Do you have anything else to add before we end the show tonight? No.
I think we're
Okay. Well,
We are.
thank you all for tuning in. We really appreciate you. And until 2 weeks from today, mind your gauges.
Mind your gauges.